ESPN Radio, ESPN college football analyst and sideline reporter with us on 365 Sports. There are games this weekend. Bangers is what I call them, Ian. Separation-type games, more evidence, including, how about Alabama and the resurgence of Tennessee?
Well, Smokey, I just had Tennessee, LSU, man, last week. And before that, I had Alabama at Arkansas when, Bryce Young goes down and that Drew Sanders sack. I'll tell you, I don't remember a weekend in October, which is always traditional, when Tennessee plays Alabama. And the great Keith Jackson once had that famous saying, man, and I'm going to butcher the impersonation, but you remember it, when it comes to Alabama, Tennessee, and on a Saturday night in October, you can always tell when the crimson tide is prevailed if the moon is a hint of crimson. And then if it was Tennessee prevailing, it was a hint of orange, depending on the amount of moonshine and whiskey you had on those boats sailgating. Is Alabama, Tennessee, and we have not had that in a long, long time. So, man, they have 3v6 coming up on Saturday, and then you have Penn State, Michigan, where I'll be with ESPN Radio. Going down the list, man, it is a separation-type Saturday 2 weeks before the first college football playoff rankings come out. You could not be more correct.
Well, let me ask you about Tennessee. You've seen them, and here we are again with them playing Alabama. Alabama last week without Bryce Young survived without him to beat A&M at the buzzer. Tennessee with Hooker at quarterback, and they're obviously playing well. How far ahead of schedule is Josh Heupel in your opinion?
A year, without a doubt. And you look at what he did in Central Florida. It was spectacular. And everyone talks about the offense. But when I talked to Jalen Hyatt, who is a very underrated wide receiver for Tennessee, he had 2 touchdown grabs against LSU. Hyatt told me our defense is better than most people give them credit for. Our special teams are better than most people give them credit for. Well, you saw the defense and the special teams unit really show up at LSU on Saturday. And Hyatt was right. But I also kind of look at it and go, all right, hold on a minute. LSU coming into that game was without Will Campbell, their starting left tackle. Garrett Dillinger, their starting right guard, gets hurt in the first quarter. He's out. Now Frazier has to go from left guard to right guard. Emory Jones, the right tackle's all banged up. They've shuffled that offensive line, Smokey, 4 different times. So I don't know if it was LSU and not having the depth and the hosses up front to be able to help that running game, which was non-existent, man. It was non-existent against that Tennessee defense. Or was it Tennessee's defense that Hyatt was talking about, very underrated? I'm going to go a bit of a combination of both. And I'll tell you this, man, right now, as you know, Smokey, I'm not afraid to put a wager down every now and then. The most tickets that have been cashed and placed on a Thursday afternoon for a college football game are on the Tennessee Volunteers. They do not air condition big buildings in the Nevada desert because they lose. I'm not on the call on this one. I'd lay the points with Bama. And I'll tell you why. I think Bryce Young's going to play. And even if he didn't, when I had, Alabama, Arkansas, when Bryce Young got hurt on that sack by Drew Sanders, I asked Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator, former Houston Texans head coach, now at Alabama, about Milroe. He goes, look, he's got the cannon to throw it outside the numbers, but he's one of the fastest guys on our team. Now, you could tell in that Arkansas game, he didn't have to think about it. He just came in and played. Last week, he had a full week to think about it, and it got to him. Curious to see if Milroe has to go, how he handles and learns from that experience of being the guy. But I have a gut feeling, and it's a big gut, as you know. I've eaten a lot of your chili, that I think Bryce Young plays on Saturday.
The one you have, Michigan, Penn State. Penn State has been kind of under the radar early on, and here they are. They're unbeaten. Michigan, after the great run they made last year, and what they seem to be doing pretty much the same thing this year. You studied the game. Your thoughts about this one?
Man, one, Joey Porter Jr., if you're an NFL team, team gets a corner from Penn State, they're getting a boy dog warrior. He is phenomenal. But a great person, Joey Porter's son, the longtime Pittsburgh Steeler. We all remember him. And his son is one of the best cover corners and a hitter. He's every bit of 6'2.5", about 200 pounds, Smokey, as a corner. They don't make him like that much anymore. And he runs like the wind. So Penn State's got one of the best lockdown guys out there. The problem Penn State has, it's not the running game. They're two freshmen toted, led by Nick Singleton. Two true freshmen. I mean, the running game's there. It's Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford, the quarterback, has been there since 1977 as a starter. And he's either exceptional or awful. Now you couple that with Mike McDaniel, the former defensive coordinator for Michigan, now going back to the Baltimore Ravens. And Michigan lost a lot defensively. Man, that's where this game's going to be decided. It's not with J.J. McCarthy, who's now the starting quarterback at Michigan, or Blake Corum, who's one of my favorite players in college football. If your team at the next level, if you're a Cowboy fan, Texans fan, whatever, you get Blake Corum, Michigan running back, grounded young man. He is awesome. And McCarthy gets all the pub, Smokey. Corum is a dude who's got 735 yards rushing already. He's averaging nearly 7 yards a carry, and he is grounded. To me, Michigan and the running game, that's where this game is decided in an early kick. Remember, man, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. That's Big Fox. Now, obviously, we'll be there on ESPN Radio. Bubba, that, to me, is where this game is decided. When Michigan, I think, runs the football and wears out Penn State.
What are your thoughts on what you have seen just in a way from afar, but also being so heavily invested in college football, with the Big 12 having, well, we knew Oklahoma State would be good, but TCU just throttles Oklahoma. Then so does Texas. Oklahoma's in a free fall.
Smokey, half the league is ranked. That's how you describe it. Half the damn league is ranked. They are deep. They are deep. To me, any given Saturday in the Big 12, I am no longer surprised if somebody wins.
And TCU has been incredibly explosive. Kansas, Jalen Daniels went down, won't play this week most likely, but Bean obviously gave them a list despite the loss to TCU. And Texas OU are Texas and OU, but, we talk about the conference moving forward.
Hey, hold on a minute. OU ain't OU, man.
No, yeah, you're right. Do you think that Texas may have kick-started something that's legitimate? Because we've seen them fool us before. Do you feel like they might maybe be a little bit maybe on the uptick?
Absolutely. And here's the reason why. Steve Sarkisian, Kyle Flood, A.J. Milwee, Bo Davis, Jeff Banks, all have been at Bama. All were under that healing hand of Nick Saban. They know what it has to look like and what a team it needs to be in order to compete in the Southeastern Conference or just in big boy college football. And they got rid of a lot of country club guys from last year that were already there that they inherited. Now they're bringing in their kind of players, and you're seeing a difference. I talked to Bijan Robinson last week, and he said it just feels different. And they are 2 field goals away from being undefeated, including a game against Bama.
No, I know.
Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Let that sink in, Smokey. These dudes can play, and they're young. Very, very young. But they got guys, man. And that attitude and knowing how a team has to be built from the inside out, that is what those 5 coaches have brought over from Alabama to Texas. And that's what you're seeing right now.
Isn't it nice to finally actually see Quinn Ewers play?
Yeah, look, man, what he was doing against Bama was amazing. And I give Hudson Card, man, full credit.
Oh, yeah.
Kept him afloat on one ankle. I mean, he was – I talked to several coaches down there in Austin, and that young man was on one leg, and he gutted it out for his team. And he didn't hit the portal, right? Because you're not – There's that old saying now, man, not even old anymore. It's just common. You know, if you're not starting, you're departing as a quarterback, right? You hit the portal. He didn't. He was loyal, and he needs a ton of credit for what he was able to do.
Caleb Williams, Lincoln Riley, USC, they've had this fast start. They're obviously better. Utah on the road, and we know Utah has slipped up, but this seems to be, this not that USC needs to be legitimized, and I know that Utah needs to bounce back, but your thoughts about them being tested up in Utah?
Now, Smokey, you know me too well, dude. You know my affinity for Utah. I lived in Park City, Utah, man. I was there in 2004 when Kyle Whittingham was a defensive coordinator, and Morgan Scalley, the current D-core, was a starting safety. Right? So those guys, man, that's a kinship that I'm always going to have. They're always going to, have a special place to me, especially those two coaches. Last week, I didn't recognize that team. That is when Utah gets run over by UCLA. I'm going, man, what is this? I don't recognize these guys. But then I saw the number come out. USC ranked 6th in the country. Utah coming up an L against UCLA. SC has to go to the altitude on the Wasatch Front. And I live there. Bubba, it ain't easy. I mean, that altitude is legit, and it will get you. And that atmosphere at Rice-Eccles Stadium is as good as any atmosphere in college football. And Utah's favored by 3.5.
Yep, absolutely.
Why are they favored? And Vegas is begging you to take SC. Every now and then they'll just they will carry it out there like, here, come on, take the bait. Here you go. Come eat that cheese. It's like a Halloween candy out there. It ain't candy corn. That's a full-size candy bars, right? They're sitting there going, come on, come get it. Give me Utah, Smokey. Give me Utah. I'll lay the 3.
We've seen Georgia pushed. We've seen Alabama pushed. And we get into too many beauty pageants sometimes from the week-to-week top 25s and all this ups and downs. But Ohio State has not been tested. They've scored a ton of points. Is there an elite team right now? Do you see who's among the absolute, no doubt about it, elite?
I've had in person Georgia. And I'll have them again next week, or 2 weeks from now, for the cocktail party. I just got that assignment, by the way. So I'm excited to see them again because the attitude I saw them beat the ever-loving snot out of Oregon with week 1 kind of simmered a bit. I know Jalen Carter, the best defensive lineman in college football, he's been banged up. I get that. But I would say, and having seen Alabama and Ohio State against Wisconsin in person, Smokey, there ain't no doubt in my mind that's your top 3 right now. And then there's a drop-off. And then when you're talking about the 4th best team in college football to make the college football playoff, there's probably 9 teams you can throw in there.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
Michigan, USC, UCLA, even though I think SC will get bounced this week against Utah. You can go on down the list, man. There's a lot of teams that you can throw in as a potential number 4. And that number 4 is going to have a loss. I don't know if a 2-loss team gets in, but, man, there's no doubt in my mind, having seen a Tennessee ranked 6th in the country, what I saw against Bama, Arkansas, and when I saw Ohio State, when I saw Georgia, it's a drop-off. And Tennessee's one of those teams in that, 8, 9 teams we're talking about. I think it's a clear-cut 1, 2, 3. Put them in any order you want. I don't care which way you want to go between, Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. And then there's a drop-off that next tier of teams.
And there's the best part about this weekend and the upcoming games as we finish out the schedule. Yeah, thank you.
That's it.
Yep. Ian, thanks, buddy. Appreciate your time. Have fun with the Michigan and also Penn State. Ian Fitzsimmons from ESPN Radio on 3.